backup, archive, and restore operations. Whilst NetBackup is a complex application that has so many whiz-bang technical features that can do weird and wonderful things, the real point of NetBackup, and any other backup application for that matter, is to backup data and restore it when you need it. So in this video, we'll show you how to perform backups of your critical data, archive old data, and of course, restore your data when you need to. So let's get started. Now the first thing we're going to do in this video is to perform a backup. Now in previous videos in this series, you've seen automatic backups occur using policy-driven scheduling. So let's focus on manually initiating a backup, which you'll be able to do at any time. In our NetBackup console, we'll come up to our top left in the File menu and we'll select Backup, Archive and Restore. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is to perform a backup. But before we start, I'm just going to go and create something that we can back up. So I'll click on Start and I'll open up my computer and I'll go to my C drive and I'm just going to right click here and I'll create a new folder. I'll just call this folder Test and I'll just double click inside our folder here and I'm going to create a new text document and I'll call this document test.txt and I'll right click one more time. We'll create another document here and I'll also call this one test2.txt. Okay, so back to our NetBackup window. Now our window here hasn't currently opened in any mode, so I'm going to choose this button here to select for backup. Alright, now I'm just going to expand this window here to make it a little bit easier to see what we're doing. Now it's pretty simple to perform a backup from our NetBackup interface. All we really need to do here is to navigate through our Explorer style interface, select the files we wish to backup, and then hit backup. So if I come over here to the left hand side and expand my C drive, here we can see there's our test folder we created a moment ago, and if I just click on test, you'll notice in the right hand side the two text files that I created inside that folder. So we can mark each of these files for backup by placing a check in the box next to each file, or we could just simply place a check in the box next to the test folder, which would do the same thing and select all files in that folder. Now on the left hand side over here, you may have already noticed that underneath our list of drives here, we do have a few additional items. We have network, registry, and shadow copy components. Now if we expand the network option, this gives us the ability to back up files that are held on other computers in our network. So if I expand my Microsoft Windows network, and I'll expand my lab domain here, you'll notice that I have another computer here called Office. And if I go and expand that, you can see here that I can also select other drives from our Office computer here, and we can select the files on our Office computer for backup as well. Now the next part here, the registry option allows us to back up the HKey local machine and HKey users portions of the Windows registry. And the shadow copy components option allows us to back up critical Windows system files such as our event logs, our DHCP information, and our WMI repository. And if we expand system state, you can also see we can back up things like Active Directory, our COM+ components, sysvol, and so on. Alright, now that we've selected our files up the top here in our test folder, all we need to do is come up here to the top left and click on the backup icon, and this will open up a new window that just gives us a quick summary of the files that we're about to back up on our DC server. Now if we like, we can also choose to archive these files, and if we select this option, NetBackup will delete these files after it's confirmed that they've been backed up correctly. Now finally, we can also set an optional passphrase, which is really just a different way of saying a long password to provide better security, as users will then need to know this passphrase in order to restore the data. Now once you've decided on the options you want to choose, simply click Start Backup and your backup will be initialized. Okay, so our backup has been initialized. If we like, we can also view the progress of our backup, so I'll click Yes. And this opens up a new window where we're able to see our backup being performed. And if any errors occur, we'll be able to see that as well. Now alternatively, if you prefer, you can also go back to our main NetBackup console. We can click on the activity monitor and you'll be able to see the progress of your backup here as well. Alright, so our backup has been performed and it was successful. And in fact, directly above our backup here, we can see that also a catalog backup was also performed, which was part of the policy we created in an earlier video. Okay, so as you've seen, the process of initiating a manual backup was absolutely simple. Okay, now let me show you another nifty feature of nnetbackup, something called Windows Explorer Extensions. Now if we come back up here to our File menu and we select nnetbackup Explorer Extensions, this allows us to back up files or folders directly from Windows Explorer. So I'll go and open up my computer again, and this time I'll right-click on my C drive, and right down the bottom here of our right-click menu, we've got a new option up here, Backup Now. And this is a quick and easy method of initiating a backup of any drive, file or folder. Now in fact, further to this, when we activated nnetbackup Explorer Extensions, something else happened. If we go and drop back to our desktop, you'll now see we have a new icon, nnetbackup bin. Now if we double click on this icon, you'll see it's really only an empty folder. However, if we drag and drop files or folders onto this icon or the folder, like you see here, this will create links to the files and you can dump whatever you want in here. So we could either dump a whole directory, or we could go back here and dump our entire C drive. And then if you right click on any of these files, folders, drives, or whatever you've selected, you have the option of backing up the individual item or backing up everything in our nnetbackup bin. Now do take note though that these here are only links to the files and folders. nnetbackup isn't copying all that data here, so you don't have to worry yourself about that. So this folder here will only ever really be a few K in size. So there you have a really nice way of building up a list of things that you might want to back up at a later date. Alright, well let's move on and take a quick look at restoring our data. After all, a backup program is only as good as its ability to restore our data. So back in our Backup, Archive and Restore window, we'll click on the second button, Select for Restore. Now down in the bottom section of this window, you'll be able to see all of the drives, files and folders that we've previously performed backups on, and at the top you'll see these colourful icons that represent the type of backup we've performed. Now the green icon up here tells us that this was a full backup. Now even though I don't have one, there's a blue icon with a little plus symbol on it which represents an incremental backup, and the red one like you see here is simply a user backup. So to restore all my data, all I need to do is locate the files in our Explorer view and select what it is I want to restore. So let's firstly go and delete our test folder. So I'll go back to my computer here, I'll go to my C drive, and I'm going to right click on my test folder and just simply delete it. In fact, just to be certain that it's gone, let's also drop back to my desktop and we'll also empty our recycle bin. Okay, so back to our nnetbackup console. Instead of restoring the whole thing, let's just restore a part of it. So down in the bottom part of our window, we'll select our test folder and we'll choose, say, our test2.txt file, and we'll restore that file only. So we'll come up here to the upper left-hand side of our window and we'll click on the restore icon. Okay, so we have three choices here we need to make at the top. Do we want to restore everything that we've chosen to its original location? If we do, we'll simply leave the top button as it is. But if we want to restore it somewhere else, we'll select our second radio button and then we'll need to enter in a path where we want our restore to be saved. Now don't forget that our file test2.txt was originally inside a folder called test. So if we choose to restore this file to another directory on our C drive, let's say in a folder called data, then our file will actually be restored to C data/test/test2.txt. Now our third option here is to restore the files to individual locations. Now if we double click on each file, we can restore them to different places simply by entering in the path here and then clicking on OK. Now under the Restore Options heading, we can restore our file without Windows Access Control attribute. Now what this means is, even if the access control list, or file permissions if you like, of the file has changed since the file was backed up, when we restore it, we'll restore the file with the old permissions. Now finally, if the file we're going to restore already exists, we'll need to decide what action we wish to take. So we could restore the file anyway and overwrite the existing one, and that can be useful if the file there is now corrupt, or you need to revert to an older version before the file was changed. We can restore the file using a temporary file name, and this will restore the file with the .tmp file extension, or we can simply do nothing, don't restore the file, and this is the default. Now in my case, it doesn't really matter what option I choose, as I've already deleted the directory containing the file I wish to restore, but you can cover just about every conceivable scenario using these options here, or simply restore the file elsewhere using one of the options above. Okay, now if we're ready to roll and restore our file, simply hit Start Restore, and as before with our backup, we're able to view the status of our restore operation. So I'll simply click Yes, and we can see how things will be tracking with our file restore. And we can see our restore here was successful, so if I go back to my computer, we'll go to our C drive, there we can see our test folder, and inside we now have our restored file. Alright, in this video, we've taken a look at manual backups, archive, and restore operations in NetBackup. Now, as you've seen, the process of backing up and restoring data is very simple, and there's really little excuse for getting it wrong, given such an easy interface. Now, if you're new to NetBackup, I'd suggest you do what I've just done here in this video and just back up and restore a few files so you get the hang of it. Then when it comes time to restore that all-critical data, you'll be well placed to handle it quickly and efficiently and be able to demonstrate why you made the investment into NetBackup in the first place.